Okay, so we're recording now, and I wanted to point out that there are 2 handouts in the webinar. You should be able to see on your navigation panel a little handout, and if you click on the little, I actually can't show this part on my screen, but if you click on the little triangle next to the word handouts, it should open up a box and you'll see 2 handouts there. So you can download those right now. The other place where you can find these handouts is on our Zendesk site, workforceboard.zendesk.com. And we've added a new report section, and Christy added the 2 documents this morning, and they're right up there in the promoted articles on the homepage. So it's the same documents in both places. But they are available to you. And I'm going to go maybe back to my presentation here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So just a few logistics items. So we have everybody in listen-only mode in order to prevent a lot of background noise. So for questions, please type your question in the question box or chat box, whatever you see there. And Christy is going to help me monitor questions as they come in. We will try to answer as many questions as we can during the call. But if we don't get to all your questions, the nice thing about you typing them in is we will have them recorded, and we can, if there's a lot of questions we don't get to, we can put out a little report to FAQs or something and answer any questions we didn't get to. Or if you have a question that you stump us with, which is possible. All the materials, as I noted, are already posted on the Zendesk site, and we are recording the webinar. So what we're going to go through today are just reports basics. And I'm not going to go through all of the slides, but what I've tried to do is a lot of things that I'm going to demo in the demonstration are covered in screenshots and instructions in the slide. So you really see this as like a resource for you after the webinar. I'm going to demonstrate about 5 reports, hoping to do 5 of them. And then one of the documents that's in your handouts is going to be a document that goes over, I think we've got about 13 or 14 reports on the document, and it really shows you how to do the filters and the path to each of those reports. So you'll have a lot more reports that you'll be able to run after this, but in the interest of time, we're going to go over some key ones. And then you should have enough background to do the rest. The other thing I'm hoping to get to at the end is how you can save and retrieve reports with 1 click. If I can't get to it, there are slides at the end of this that go over step by step how to do that, so you still have that information if we run out of time today. So just a general overview on the reports for those of you who maybe haven't experimented with them yet. All Career Connect quote-unquote canned reports should be available to all staff. If you find a report that you can't access, it's probably because we don't have those features turned on in the system, so we don't really have the reports turned on. If you're not sure, send an email to the help desk, and we'll let you know, oh, yeah, you should have access to that, let's fix that, or no, you don't have access because we're not using those reports at this time. But in general, all staff have access to everything I'm going to show today, or should. So, and you'll have much more access to reports than you did in IWID. Case management reports, that document provides instructions for running your key reports, especially ones that you're needed for your monthly reporting. And it's important to note that the Career Connect reports are not going to be identical to IWIDs. You notice on our documents, we don't say anything like this is the equivalent to the IWIDs XYZ report. But what we try to do is find reports that generally contain the same information, The format might be a little different, and we'll talk about some of those differences. Some of those differences are also noted in our reports instruction guide that you have attached. For the most part, we're going to access our reports from the reports menu, and on your left navigation, you should have a reports bar or box. If you see reports with a little plus sign next to it, it means you need to click on the plus sign and it'll open up. Most of our reports are going to be in detailed reports. A few of them, the one which I'll specifically go over, will be in my reports, and I'll show you at least one of those. And then once you get to the detailed reports screen, there are report categories and subcategories and sub-subcategories. There's a lot of depth to the reporting. For the case management reports, most everything is going to be in the case management report section or the services report section. For those of you who were at the contractors meeting last week, we went over a couple of employer reports because we know you also have to report now on your job orders and your services to employers. So those reports are available in the employer reports and also the services report sections of the detailed report. And just some things to note about all reports, and again, I'll be showing you these as I go through the demonstration, but all the reports have some common features. They have filters so that you can tailor the data that comes back. When you run the report, those filters are listed at the top of the report screen, so you can say, oh, I can see, oh yeah, I put the right dates in, or oh, I maybe put the wrong dates in and I need to go back. And then once you realize you need to go back, you can either completely reset your filters, or you can just update your filters. And then let's say you want a different date range or a different customer group, you have the same filters and you can just update. There is on-screen sorting, so you can sort your data on screen. And then you can also export all of these reports in multiple formats. A lot of our reports have blue hyperlinks that will take you either to sub-reports and or take you out to the customer record. It's important to note, though, that those hyperlinks only work on screen. Once you download those reports, it doesn't take you back into Career Connect. So that's just an important note. So the case management report document, and I think, what did we call it on the screen, Christy? I think we called it case management report instructions. Yeah. On the Zendesk site. This is basically your report cheat sheet. And the way it's organized, we saved it as a PDF. It's a table, and it basically includes all the key reports you need for your monthly report and some reports that will help you manage your data and your caseload. So the first column is the report title, and that lists the Career Connect report title, what the report is actually called in the system. The navigation column provides the path to run the report, so detailed report, case management report, caseload, active cases. Filters, what we have given you here are the basic ways to set your filters so you get the data that you need for your monthly report. You are welcome to play with other filters, but this is kind of the down and dirty, get you what you need quickly, how to filter your data. And then the description includes a brief description of the report, including the applicable section of the monthly report that the Career Connect report corresponds to, and instructions for any sub-reports. And you'll see what I mean by that as we go through the demo. And I actually just realized that I did not log into Career Connect in advance. Oops. Okay. Oh, well, we have our maximum number of attendees, and I didn't know we had a maximum. Oops. So you're the lucky ones that logged in on time. All right. I'm going to go ahead and log into Career Connect real quickly, and get us started on the demo. In the meantime, Christy, are there any questions that have come in, or?
Someone was asking about where can we get the handouts, so I'm giving the website.
Okay, yeah, the Zendesk website. And you'll send that response, so goes everybody? Yeah.
I don't know, how do we do that?
I'm not sure. Sorry. Oh, that's not helpful. Okay. Sorry, I should have done this before we started. One thing I forgot.
This is we're all bothering.
Okay. So as I mentioned, you're going to use the left-hand navigation bar, and if you normally keep that turned off, you click on the little hamburger menu here, and you can turn that navigation bar on. I'm going to scroll to the reports box, and I'm going to go ahead, and we're going to demo. The first one that I want to demonstrate today is the enrollment summary by Aaliyah, and it's number 2 on the handout if you happen to have a handout. And this report is one that's going to list the total count of new and carryover enrollment by program, and it's going to help you with the planned total served section of your monthly report. And the path for this one is detailed report, and it's in the case management report section, and it's a caseload report. And it is called Enrollment Summary by Aaliyah. Oh, and I really want to thank in advance Arlington Heights. We wanted to demo with real data, because in the test site, we may get reports that come back without any results. So Arlington Heights has graciously agreed to be the guinea pig has graciously agreed to be let us use them as their to run reports, demo reports, and we have promised them that they will have not get in any trouble for anything we might see when we're running these reports. So thank you to BCS and Arlington Heights for allowing us to do this, and I like it because they're at the top of the alphabet, so that's easy for me to find them. Okay, so this first report does not have a lot of filters, which is nice. So all I'm doing is I'm picking the office, and I'm going to pick the date range. And so in this case, I probably want to see I would probably want to see my carryover for the current program year. So I'm just going to select current program year. And sometimes it takes just a minute to refresh. One thing to note is if you select current or previous program year, it's always going to select a date range from July 1 to June 30th. If you happen to have a different contract period and you want to run it by your contract period, you can use the custom date filter and do your October 1 to September 30th date. But in this case, I just want to do the current program year. And I'm going to run the report.
Lisa says things.
And this is an interesting report because the way it returns. So you'll notice here I've got Aaliyah/Office, Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, and there's this little plus sign next to it. What you want to do is you want to click that plus sign, just like everywhere else in Career Connect. When you see a plus, it means there's something below it. And now I'm seeing Arlington Heights. Now you're going to see WP, which is Wagner-Pizer. You can ignore that. we haven't talked a lot about this, but anytime you create a customer registration, it creates a Wagner-Pfizer app in the background, and that is really doesn't mean anything in the scheme of Illinois and Wagner-Pfizer in Illinois. It's just a function of the system that happens automatically when you register a customer, and it's what allows us to track universal services for those customers. But basically, you can ignore the Wagner-Pfizer section. You will have your WIA, which eventually should probably be changed to WIOA, and you can see your carry forward and your new enrollments from the current, in this case, I selected the current program year. Also, for those of you that are running programs through generic, some of our non-WIOA programs or co-enrolled programs, you will also see your generic. Obviously, we don't do TAA, and I don't even know what NFJP is. Those should be zeros. You won't see any data there. And now you'll notice that I have a blue link here. So if I click on this 416 number, it's going to open a sub-report that's going to show me all my carry forward customers. And if I click on the 188 under new enrollment, it will show me all of, well, in this case, Arlington Heights' new enrollments in the current program year. So I'm just going to click on the new enrollment number.
Do you keep getting them? I keep getting people who are not allowed to come in. I got it.
Okay, so now you can see I have all the customers that are newly enrolled in this period. I have, the customer group, the application date, the enrollment date, and their exit status, and the assigned staff. If I clicked on this link here to the user ID, I would actually go to that customer's record. You will notice that there are no socials, not even last four in here. All of these ID numbers are actually unique system set IDs. So the user ID you get with the customer registration, I think the state ID as well, and the application ID, in this case, since I'm in the WIOA, this would be their WIOA application number. So you can identify customers by these numbers without the social, which is great. I do have the person's name. I'm going to use this report to just show you some basic things with it. So let's say I wanted to sort this list by customer group. I can do it right on the screen by clicking on the column header, these two arrows up here, and it will do it right on the screen for me. So now it does it alphabetically, so all my adults are at the top. And you'll say, wait a minute, but there were dislocated workers before, where did they go? Well, this report has multiple pages on the screen. In most cases, you're going to be able to see the page numbers in this position at the top, and you can see it says 1 of 2 with a question mark. So if I want to go to the second page, I just click the arrow. And now you can see I still have adults. Keep going. If I want to go to the very last page, I can click on this button. So it's kind of like a fast forward, rewind, skip scene, previous scene on your remote control. But it will take you through each page. And now you can see, now I'm back into where I've got my dislocated worker. So all the reports, if you are able to sort by one column, but let's say I wanted to sort by multiple columns, like I can do in Excel. We can only do one column on the screen. But the other thing that you're going to see here, and again, in most reports, it's in this position. There's probably one or two I'll show today where some things are at the bottom instead. But all of them have this functionality. There is a little disk icon. Remember floppy disks? So there's a disk icon, and I just click on the little arrow, and I can export into any of these formats. Excel is going to pretty much give you what you see on the screen with the header columns and your filters. So it's kind of the prettier version. If you want to actually manipulate the data, you might want to try this CSV comma delimited, and you can still open that and save it as Excel, but there's a little less formatting, which sometimes makes it easier to sort the data or hide columns or manipulate the data. You can do PDFs, you can do Word, you could publish it to the web if you wanted to, but probably Excel and CSV are the ones you use most commonly. And then let's say I want to go back to the summary report and look at my total carryovers. Most of the reports have this little back button that says go back to the parent report. So this would be the child report or the detailed report. I want to go back to the parent report and I'll just click here. Not all of the reports have this, and in that case, it's the one time when you probably want to use your browser's back button. But sometimes it'll take you all the way back to the filter screen. So if it has this button, go ahead and use that button. Before I do that, actually, is it on the screen? I did want to show two other links, and again, this is on all reports. I have a link down here to update my search criteria. Again, let's say, you know, I just want to run this report by adults and not by dislocated. I can just click update search criteria and just change that one filter. If I click reset search criteria, I will actually go back to the filter page, but all the filters will be reset to the default. So this update search criteria, really, really handy when you're like, oh, I picked the wrong date range, or I didn't quite set my filters right. So I'm just going to go back, I'm going to use this button and go back to the parent report. So that was where we started. And again, if I wanted to update my search criteria, I'll just show you that. So I'm still in my enrollment summary by OWIA. And, oh, actually this one's interesting. This one doesn't have a ability to do it by customer groups. There's really not much to filter here, but maybe if I wanted to do previous program year or this year to date or some other date range, I could just change it. And that's really, this kind of first example shows you really the basics of how the reports work in Career Connect. Christy, do we have any questions so far about this? Okay. All right. Good. And just go ahead and type your questions in at any time. Christy will poke me when we get some questions and I need to stop, and I'll try to remember to stop as well. All right, so the next report that I wanted to demo today is one I know we've gotten a lot of questions about, and this is the last case note per participant. So since I'm already in reports, I could go back here and go to detailed reports, or I could go to return to manage reports. I'm going to go to return to manage reports just so you can see where that takes you. So now it takes me to a screen where I can see all of my report categories. And this is another report that we run in detailed reports. So I'm going to click detailed reports. And this report, it's in the case management report section, but it's under documentation. So I'm going to click on documentation. And we have a report called last case note for participants. Now this one, the filters are a little more complicated, but again, our guide, our instructions have given you the how to set the filter so you can get what you need. So in this case, the program defaults to Title I Workforce Development, which is our WIOA Title I. If you wanted to run it for any of our generic programs, you can see that we have actually 3 generic programs set up, non-WIOA programs. If you wanted to see case notes for somebody co-enrolled, you could put it as none selected. But for WIOA, I'm going to leave it at Title I Workforce Development. I can pick my customer group. Now this filter has the option, let's say I wanted adult and dislocated but not youth. I can use my control key, hold down the control key, and I could pick adult and dislocated. Or let's say I wanted to do dislocated and include statewide rapid response additional assistance 1E and NEG and DWG. I could pick those. So usually when you can click multiples on a filter, it will give you the note there that you can press control to select multiple. So I'm just going to leave it as adult and dislocated. And just so you guys know, I'm using the cheat sheet myself. So I don't have all this memorized myself. So I've got it right in front of me. I'm going to use Arlington Heights. You can select your, do not use the case manager group. For some reason in the reports, the group is not quite working correctly. However, if you're a career coach and you just want to see your caseload, you can click select me here and just see your cases. So that the assigned case manager, or if you're a manager and you want to see one of your career coaches, you can take your career coach. In this case, I'm just going to do the whole office. And you notice I'm skipping a lot of filters. There's a lot more filters on a lot of these screens than you're probably going to need. So again, we're giving you like, here's the basics to get the data that you need. Then I can decide if I want to filter by application date, participation date, or exit date. For this report, we recommend using the participation date, the date of the first service, the equivalent to the IWID's registration date. And then your date range. This is one where we're going to have you do a custom date range so that you can get all your current cases. There's no option here to just get your active cases. That might be something that we ask our vendor GeoSol to add, is a filter for active cases. But for right now, your best option is to do a custom date. And I'm going to go back to July 1, 2012, because we imported anybody who is active or exited after July 1, 2012. And I'm going to go through today, date. One thing to keep in mind is that even though I have today's date in here, the data often lags by 24 hours. So if you just put in data today, it may not show in all the reports. That's just something to keep in mind. So, so, you know, if you put in data, if you're cleaning up data today, you might want to go back in and run the report tomorrow to make sure that what you cleaned up is all in there. So I'm going to go ahead and run the report. And I just realized this may be a really big report that comes back. Oh, yeah. But, so, and again, you can see, and I'll actually try to make my screen a little bigger here, just so it's probably easier for you to see. Again, I've got my, actually, hold on, because I don't have to scroll. So I have, here's my customers, the app date, the participation date. Now you notice there's exiters on here. This is the issue with this report. We can't not have exiters on here, but this is where that sort comes in really handy. I'm just going to sort, and it'll bring all my non-exiters up to the top, so I can see, you know, the days since last contact date, and then the days since last case note date for each of my customers. And this shows me everybody. If I want to show you one thing that you can do, and again, you can sort this, or you might export and just hide or delete all your exiters and then sort by your case note date, but you can get the information. I am going to show you one thing, so I'm going to do update search criteria. There is one filter that can kind of reduce this report a little bit. And you guys can play with this one. If I want to see the days since last case note, I could pick one of these filters. So if I want to see somebody who hasn't had a case note for 45 days or less, this probably should be or more instead of or less now that I'm looking at it. But like if I want to see anybody who's in one of these categories, I can run the report just filtering by that category. But if I do none selected with that custom date, it brings back everybody in your caseload. Any questions on that report before I move on? No? All right. So I'm doing a really good job. Okay. So the next report I want to show is obtained employment. And hopefully everybody has gotten the news that we have a new employment bar on the WIOA page in CareerConnect, where you can now add your in-program employment prior to exit, and that data will actually show up on this report that I'm going to show you. Yep.
Lisa's asking a question. She's saying, can you explain the difference between the two dates on the case note report, and can you run the report to see what it looks like?
Oh, the case note. Okay, so I just ran the report, but I'll run it again.
I think she's saying with the date, with the.
Oh, with like
45 days.
Okay, I'll do 40. Okay. So I just had a request to run the case note report with one of these date filters. So I will run it with 45 days or less. So this will just give me anybody who's had a case note within the last 45 days. Again, I still get my exiters, but then it tells me the days between last contact and last case note. I think this pulls, if you remember in your case notes, you have to put in a contact date. I'm thinking that this is the difference between the contact date and the date of the case note, but I'm not 100% sure. So that's something we can get back to you on. But, you know, what's really important is the days since last case note. You want to make sure you're following our procedures, which are case notes every 30 days, correct?
Yes.
So that's what that report looks like with when you put one of those filters in. But again, I'm only going to get somebody who's had a case note in 45 days or less. So if it's been more than 45 days, they won't show up on this report. So that's why our recommendation is you leave that filter as none selected and use the custom date range, and that will get you everybody in caseload.
And then.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to move on to the obtained employment report. I'm going to again click on Return to Manage Reports from here. This is also in detailed report. It's a case management report under caseload. And my mouse is giving me a hard time. There we go. And then it's called obtained employment. So now here, there's no default program. I'm going to go ahead and select WIOA. And again, I could select a customer group if I wanted to. I'm going to select my office here. And then you want to filter by the job start date in this case. And then you can select your desired date range. So let's say I want to see whoever started a job in the current program year. I could look at the previous program year. I could look at the last 12 months. I could do a custom date. But in this case, I'm going to say the current program year. And I'm going to run my report. And this report, this is going to help you with the plan/reported placement section of your monthly report. Now this one, again, I can see who my person is. I get some demographic data on them in this report. I have my company name, the company address, and you'll notice on the screen, this one trails off to the side. This is one thing that's a little awkward about this and why it makes the downloading really helpful, is that in order to see the other columns, I've got to scroll down to the bottom of a report and kind of use this to scroll over. Now I'm in Chrome. I think it works similarly in Explorer, but that's the only way to see the other columns. So this would be a good report. You might find it just easier to download it so you can see everything in one spreadsheet. But it's a pretty long report. So you can see you've got your company information, the job title, the employment start date, the end date, if there is one, hours and wages, the ONET, and the industry. So this has got some really good data in it. Now this will pull any reports, any employment that you entered in the employment bar, and it should also import any employment that you entered on the exit screen. So that is, and I think I mentioned this before, but there's the top of the report will show what filters I used. So if I'm trying to remember, oh, did I pick the right date, or oh, I did this by current program year, it's right up there what I selected. Any questions on the obtained employment report? This was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no question.
All right, no question.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Okay, so now I am going to do.
Oh, she's saying it will help with, wait, is there any way to find employment in the background?
Yes, hold that question. If I have time at the end, I will show you that. There is a separate report for employment in the background, I believe. And if I can't answer it on this call, I will make sure to get that information out to folks. All right. So I am going to go to Return to Manage Reports again. Detailed report. And now I'm actually going to go, I'm going to do the services provided individuals report. And so that is actually not a case management report, it's a services report. And the services reports are down closer to the bottom of the screen here. And in this case, since I'm working with my job seeker customers, I'm going to do services provided individuals. And I'm going to run this as a list report to get the data. And basically, this is going to help you on the plan new enrollment section of your monthly report. And it's similar, not identical, but similar to the IWID's master list report. So again, the important filters here, I want my program. And you'll notice sometimes it takes a second for the screen to refresh, and then, and again, I have my, in this case, they call it a subprogram, but it's your title. I'm going to do a youth one this time. Here, for the office, I'm going to pick my one-stop office. see, I don't need to do anything with staff. If you wanted to run this for a particular service, you could pick your service or multiple services, but in this case, I want to see all the services, so I'm just going to leave those filters blank. I have a bunch of demographics I could filter by. In this case, not interested in that. And so this report has a lot of filters. But what I want to do now is I want to go down and I want to filter by the actual service begin date. So that's the actual begin date of the service. And you'll notice it refreshed and took me to the top of the page, which is a little annoying. So I'm going to scroll back down. Hopefully nobody's getting dizzy. And then again, you can select your desired date range. I'm just going to stick here with my current program year date range. Again, it takes me back from this one. It refreshes and takes me to the top again, which is kind of annoying. Go back down, and I'm going to display my report. And so this one, again, I can see my customer and then all the services that that customer received, and it puts them in customer order. So I see for every customer and the status of the service, who created it, the begin date, the create date, the begin date, projected begin date if there was one, and actual end date, projected end date. And sorry, I gotta scroll. The staff that entered the service. Oh, and this is one where the report format's a little bit different. So instead of having my pages at the top and my little disc, if I want to page through it on the screen, I use the arrow here at the bottom. And if I want to download, I can just click Excel, CSV, type delimited, print, or PDF. This does not have the ability to export this one to Word. But so there's a few reports, I think these are older reports in the system that still have this format, but that same functionality is generally still there. Any? No questions? All right. All right.
Okay, no, wait.
Wait,
Okay, if we're seeing discrepancies between the number of these reports and IWOOD, should we contact the help desk, or could there be other reasons that are easy fixed so we can be proactive?
Yeah, so again, these reports do not always pull the data exactly as it pulled from IWOOD. So comparing the report to IWOOD isn't always the best option, but if you do think there's a real discrepancy, let us know. I think it's more if you notice, like, okay, I know we've placed more than 4 people in employment in the since the beginning of the year, but only 4 coming back on this report. Those are the types of things, like where you just think the data's off based on your files, what you know about your customers. That's probably more of an indication than the report doesn't line up exactly with IWOOD. But if you're in doubt, put in a help desk ticket and we'll work with you to figure it out. We have found some bugs in the reports. We have found some quirks in how the data returns. So definitely let us know.
Someone asked me another question about, is there to get the customer's email and phone number?
Yeah, that one I will probably have to address separately. Sorry, the question was how to get the customer's email address and phone number. There are some reports that do that, but it's hard to get it by your particular caseload. So we can try, and these are good questions because we will probably be adding to this list of reports. So as we find out things that people are asking for or need, we can add to this list of reports. All right. The last report I wanted to show today is called Registrants and Exiters Who Have Started Training. And this the first report we're going to go to that's not going to be in the detailed reports. So I'm going to go to Return to Manage Reports. And I am actually going to go to My Reports for this. And the reason is that there's no existing report in Career Connect that brings back all of the training in one report. But what we were able to do is that services list that I just showed you, we are able to customize the filters and save it so you don't have to pick all the training service codes every time you run the report. We've already done that for you, and we've saved it as a shared report in My Report. So for this one, and again, this is on that sheet that we gave you, I'm going to do My Report. And there's going to be a section called Shared Reports. And this one is called the Started Training Report. And I have a couple options. I can update filters or I can display the report. I don't think you guys have edit and delete options. I might have them on this because I was the one that created them, but in general, you guys will not have edit or delete options. So I'm going to just go ahead this time and click Display Report so you can see how the report works. So I'm not going to go to a filters page. I'm just going to go, I'm going to hit, and it's just going to run the report for me. Now the filters are set, and again, this is on the sheet, so that it's going to return all of these services, and I put all the adults and all the youth service codes that are training services. They've all been custom selected. And then this runs, it's going to return all customer groups that you work with and all offices, or I think it was, no, it actually is all offices for the current program year. So, and again, the header rows look a little different, but I can still, let's say I want to sort by office, or maybe I want to sort by service type. I can click on it. I can click the other way. So it will sort it by service code number. And I have the type of service, the office that provided it, the completion status, the staff, the date. This report does not show the service provider, just the office that entered the service. But this is similar to IWIDS, and this is going to show you everybody that started training in the date range. Now, let's say I don't want every office, I just want my office, or I want the previous program year, not the current program year, something like that. In this case, and I'm going to cheat and use the back button to get me back, hopefully, to my reports page. So in that case, if you wanted to update the filters, you can click on Update the Filters. So let's just say I wanted to see adult for Arlington Heights. The biggest thing is do not touch this field, because that's what's been preset with all this training, and you don't want to change that. Those training service codes were all selected. I can kind of show you that. You go down, see all the ones that were in blue, those have been pre-selected. So again, that way you don't have to try to do this every time you want to run the report and remember all the codes. They've been preset for you. But now I want to go down, so I just wanted to change a couple filters, the office, just the adults, and I just want the current program year. I'm going to keep it at the current program year, but let's say I want to do previous program year, custom dates. I can change my date and display it just like. And this is also going to assist you with your planned OJTs in your monthly report. So, because you have your OJT service code there. Oh, ITA.
Paid work experience.
Paid work experience. Thank you. So all of those codes are in here. Cool. And there, we actually have one other report where we've done a customization for you. And I'll just go back. I'm going to go back to the My Reports page so you can see it, or the, yeah, no, it's not taking me back. There we go. So I'm back in the shared report, and this is open same-day services. So one of the things that we've noted, actually I will display this one really quick just because it's a little bit different, and I can do it with one click. So unlike iWoods, Career Connect does not force you or does not automatically close the same-day services, and we have found that people have been forgetting to do that, which is understandable because it's different. But we need to get that cleaned up, and so Christy is going to be contacting you soon to do that. But if you guys want to be proactive, we've set up this open same-day service as a shared report, and same thing. I just went ahead and created a report where all of the same-day services are already picked, the service codes, and this is the service status. So if the service status is NA, then we know that that service is not closed, because if you close it, you have to have a status. So what I would do to see, and I won't embarrass anybody, we have 379 open same-day services in Career Connect. So we will definitely be reaching out to get those cleaned up. But if I clicked on NA, I would see which ones those were. And again, same thing, if you just want to run it by your office or a different date range, I've got it starting from June 12th when we started Career Connect through today. Actually, this one because it's a custom date, if you want to update it through the day you're running it, you do have to update the filters to go through today's date. So actually this number might be a little low, but that's how you can see your open same-day services. So we will be asking you, once we get these 379 or however many are cleaned up, we are going to be asking you guys to keep an eye on that, and we've given you a report to do it. That is all I wanted to, those were all the reports I was going to demo today. Again, I think once you kind of get the hang of it, and we've given you the instructions, I think it's going to be pretty easy to follow. The last thing I wanted to show, and then I know there was one report somebody asked me about that I'll try to get to, is how to save a report in My Report. So I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to go back to Return to Manage Report. Detailed reports. And what this allows you to do, and again, the instructions are in the PowerPoint with screenshots of how to do this. I'm actually going to do one of the job order reports. Since, I know I showed those at the contractor meeting, but I know we have a lot more people on the call. So let's say I want to do one of my employer reports, and I'll do my job order report, and I'm going to do it by one-stop location here. In this case. And I want to pick my office again. And again, I'm going to skip most of the filters, but I want to say my job order active date, and I want to see all the job orders that I've posted in the current program year. And let's say I am just going to run this report every month to give my monthly reports with the same filters. So I don't want to have to come in here, even though it's not a lot of filters. I don't want to have to come in here and set these filters every time I want to run this report. What I can do is I get my filters all set. And on this page, I have an option to save to my reports. It's going to bring up a little pop-up window. If you don't get this, make sure your pop-ups are enabled in your browser. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, why isn't this working? And it's because I don't have my pop-ups enabled. So make sure your pop-ups enabled. And then I'm going to type in a brief description. So job orders, current program year. I am going to leave this marked as do not share, because otherwise we're going to have a whole bunch of miscellaneous reports in that shared report area. But so, and we will delete those if we see too many that are in there. So leave it as do not share and click on save. And now, when I go back to return to manage report, my report, I think it usually puts them, here's the one I just saved, job orders, current program year. And this is under my reports as opposed to the ones that we created, which are under shared reports. And I've got some other reports. And so the job orders, and again, same thing, I can display, I can update filters. But this is a way, if you run a report every month with the exact same filters, and especially if the filters are a little more complicated, you can just use that, save to my report, come here instead, and just that one click display the report. Are there any questions? Otherwise, I think I have just enough time to go back and answer a couple of those questions about other reports that we didn't cover today.
Are you going to show her the email one?
Yeah, there were a couple. So are there any other questions on what I have covered before I?
The only thing was that she had somebody with the background with the employment or the email address.
Right, okay.
Okay. Those are
the ones, so no other questions. Okay, great. And there are tons more reports, as you can see. So feel free to play around in here. Actually, the payment reports, if you want to look at, even though we're not really tracking payments through Career Connect, and we might show some of these next week. I'm not going to run any. But there's some really interesting on-the-job work experience and training, which would be your ITA reports, that you can run that have a lot more detail on those types of services than the list one that we created. So if you want to get deeper into your OJT or training data, you can. Use predictive reports as something I want to play with next and learn more about, so we can show you some of these. But there were a couple of questions about background information and contacts. So there are individual reports. This individual report section is where you're going to find something that's not WIOA data. It's the information that's saved in that background section. So I'm going to do, so for example, background information. And we haven't played with these too much. I've got a days since last employment, a list. There's some things about, this looks like it's more about desired employment and some employment characteristics, not so much jobs. So I'm going to go back. There's registered individual report. There's by employment status, unemployment status. So this is a section where I would play around and look for anything that would give you the job background. You might even want to look, even though we haven't enabled the resumes, you might want to look in the resume section. There's some worker here, so you can do some reports by occupation, years experience, and education. So I would say play around in here and see if you can find what you want. And then if not, let us know, put in a help desk ticket, and we can try to do some research and see if there's a report that will give you the information that you want. For employment, that was for employment in the background, as opposed to employment earned during program or at exit. This is the individual section, is also where you can run contact reports. Somebody asked about email addresses and things. And again, I believe that's under registered individual. And I remember a help desk ticket on this. So we're still learning the reports here, guys. So, oh, I'm sorry, there's a miscellaneous report. There is a contact report. That's where it was. Under miscellaneous, there's a contact report. And then it's individual registration. The thing with this is because this is pulling off the background, because that's where you're going to have your most current contact information. It doesn't, you can't, I guess you can do a WIOA Title I, and you can do it by office, but you can't run it just for your caseload, for example. But you can run it by office. So that was, again, the path to that. Let me go back and back. It's a miscellaneous reports, contact, and individual registration. And that's where you can get customer contact information. And then somebody actually sent a help desk ticket in earlier today about, and actually we're more excited time. So, somebody put in a help desk ticket today about a follow-up report, and they had a really good question, and I was like, oh, we should have added that report to our reports list. So what we can try to do is, with some of the questions that came up today, we can try to add those to the document, and we'll post an updated version. And if you guys have found any reports you've already played with that you find are really useful, let us know. Don't make us reinvent the wheel here. Like we're all learning together. So if you found some ones that you think are really good and really helpful that you think we should add to our list, we'd be happy to do that. Let's share with each other and learn from each other. And the other thing I have to say about reports is you can't mess up data when you're running reports. You're just pulling data. So do feel free to experiment with filters, experiment with the other reports that are out there. We wanted today just to get you enough to get you started. I do expect we will do more reporting webinars and more about reporting as we learn more and as you all get more comfortable using the reports. But feel free to, if you're ambitious and you like this kind of stuff, do not hesitate to play around with the reports. You can't really mess anything up. So, any last questions? Because we're actually a couple minutes over.
Thank you, very helpful.
Good. Good. And as I said, we're recording this webinar. We will try to get the webinar recording up.
How do you get your current enrollment?
Current enrollment, isn't that I think that's the first one I demonstrated. Enrollment summary by OWIA. That's going to give you your new and carryover, right?
Mm-hmm. And you can get it from the active cases also.
Oh, the active cases as well, which I did not demo today, but is on the report instructions document. All right, everybody. All right, well, go forth and run reports and go wild. Thanks, everybody.
Wait, how to get the performance management? Are we getting the handout?
Okay, so the handouts are available on Zendesk. They've already been posted. So that is the website is workforceboard.zendesk.com, and they're right up on the front page there. the Career Connect reporting guide, and the case management report instructions. The reporting guide is actually the PowerPoint from today, which has a lot more slides that I didn't cover that give you screenshots of how to do some of the basic filtering that I went over and sorting. And then the case management reports instructions has the actual instructions for each report. And like I said, it has a lot more than what I went over today. I just went, in the interest of time, I only did 5, but I think we've got, oh, I did need to mention though that there are 2 reports, and this is noted on your sheet, the days since last active service and the shared placements report. Neither of those reports is working correctly in Career Connect. We're working with our vendor to get some tweaks so those will work better for us. We actually at this point recommend that you just continue to run those reports in iWids until further notice, until we get them fixed in Career Connect.
If you need your iWids ID reinstated, just send a ticket to the help desk.
Yeah, we can reinstate that for you. But this document, the instructions have 14 different reports. That instructions running 14 different reports. All right. Well, we'll stay on the line for just another minute or 2 in case there's any final questions. But otherwise, we are done. Thank you, everybody.